Okay, good afternoon, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for this event on AI and MEAs. So, and of course, many thanks to my MEA colleagues for hosting us in this wonderful venue. It's a pleasure to discuss this very timely topic with you today, and we have a very rich program for you, but before we get started on that, it is my distinct pleasure that our dear Deputy Executive Director, Ms. Elizabeth Mrema, has agreed to join us today. Of course, all of you know Elizabeth not only as UNEP's Deputy Executive Director, but also as a veteran of MEAs. She has led, she has championed, she has shepherded, and she knows everything there is to know about MEAs. So we're very fortunate to have her today. So without further ado, let me welcome Elizabeth for her introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, Sally. I want to disagree with her that I'm the champion or too knowledgeable. You know, we learn every day. It doesn't matter how long one has been in a particular sector or dealing with specific issue. There's something to learn on each day. And especially now when we deal with new issues like artificial intelligence and what it means for the multilateral conventions, many of which were negotiated and adopted at the time when AI had not even been thought of, and what it means today. So it's good to have this discussion, and delighted I can see all my colleagues there. So it will be good to also learn from them in terms of what is their thinking within the context of their mandates and the convention. And I think I can begin by saying artificial intelligence is a changing way we interact with the world now these days. It is solving some of the most complex problems, but also creating other problems. And some people are even using it to write their speeches. Now we have found a very easy way that our speeches can be done, but please be careful when you do that, because I promise you, and I can confess that my own is not an AI generated, but when it is, we can easily tell. So the creator of ChatGPT, Sam Altman, exactly said these words, and I quote, "Artificial intelligence will most likely lead to the end of the world. But in the meantime, it will be great for companies." And you may guess what is that. And I end of quote. So he was apparently joking, but it is true that the race to extract value for artificial intelligence is happening with little regard to the urgency of environmental crises we face. And today, I would like to speak about how all of us can harness this transformational technology to accelerate progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, but also strengthen multilateral environmental agreements and ensure that innovation serves both people and the planet. It is estimated that around 70% of the SDGs targets, specifically 119 out of 169, could be accelerated through digital tools. And 22 targets directly call for the use of data and digital technologies. So this thinking has already been in the making some years back. But how are we harnessing it? And from satellite monitoring to predictive modeling and real-time analytics, digital transformation enables us to understand complex ecological systems better, track change, and design solutions at scale. In short, technology can help turn ambition into action in addressing the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. Artificial intelligence in particular has become a key enabler of implementation of multilateral environmental agreements. And the work of MEAs relies on complex processes, rules, monitoring, and reporting. And all these depend to a large extent on the volume of data available. And when applied responsibly, artificial intelligence can indeed assist negotiators and boost capacity for negotiations, but also beyond. It can integrate dispersed data, detect patterns, automate reporting processes, and support more coherent responses across agreements and sectors. Well-managed artificial intelligence can enhance cooperation and enable more targeted, outcome-oriented environmental action. However, let us be very clear. Artificial intelligence presently comes with an environmental cost, and there are now more than 8 million data centers worldwide, up from just about 500,000 such data in 2012. So this energy consumption doubles roughly every 4 years, and therefore we have environmental footprint of artificial intelligence. And this includes things like carbon emissions from model training and large-scale computing. It also includes intense water use of semiconductor manufacturing and cooling, and increased, thirdly, demand for rare earth minerals linked to environmentally and socially harmful mining practices. And there is a growing crisis of electronic waste, which is one of the fastest expanding waste streams globally, with very low recycling capacity, low recycling rates, and a major cause of pollution, especially in developing countries. And I'm sure my colleague in the chemicals, Rolf, can talk more about that. Artificial intelligence must be subject to clear safeguards, clear transparency, and meaningful human oversight. We need to ensure that standards that address energy efficiency, supply chain integrity, data governance, and life cycle sustainability are well managed. The goal is not simply faster technology, but better, fairer, and greener technology. And equally important is equity. We must ensure that all countries benefit equally from these tools, and benefit not just equally, but also fairly and transparently. And this is especially true for the Global South, where digital divide still remains stark. Capacity building, therefore, must focus on skills development, infrastructure access, data literacy, and technical support, so that every MEA community and every member state can use artificial intelligence in ways that align with their national priorities and development pathways. And encouragingly, important progress is already seen and is already underway. And in response to UNEP resolutions, in response to ministerial guidance, UNEP has developed what we call Global Environmental Data Strategy. It has been developed in close collaboration with our multilateral environmental agreements colleagues, and this initiative is building the foundation for trusted interoperability and AI-ready data systems that can support action on climate, biodiversity, and pollution. So this launch, or the launch of the World Situation Room, what we call WATSA, including its pilot here during this UNEP 7, marks one of the major steps forward. And this platform, WATSA, enhances data discovery, enhances visualization, enhances analysis, and providing then decision makers with actionable intelligence and an architecture designed to support artificial intelligence applications. We have also seen the debut, or the beginning, the initiation of the environmental GPT. And if anybody has not looked at it, please go online website and play around with it and see how it can help you in your environment work. So UNEP's large language model interface for environmental knowledge has enabled us to develop this environment GPT. And it is built on authoritative database, on scientific assessments, which then will allow policymakers, practitioners, and treaty bodies to query reliable information in natural language, while at the same time preserving transparency and explainability. So across the MEAs system, additional artificial intelligence-enabled prototypes are emerging, demonstrating how innovation can strengthen the science policy interface without compromising treaty integrity or accountability. As we consider the future of environmental governance in the digital world, one truth stands out clearly. The promise of artificial intelligence depends on collective leadership. No country, no institution, no agreement can realize this potential on its own. So coordinated political commitment is essential to ensure that technological innovation accelerates the Sustainable Development Goals, strengthens environmental compliance, and empowers all nations equally. So colleagues, let's work together across different MEAs, across governments, and across regions to ensure that artificial intelligence is equitable, it is responsible, and it is sustainable. And above all, it is a tool for meaningful change for people and the planet. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and this is a great start to this event. Before I introduce our speakers, let me just frame the discussion a little bit. So, of course, we all know that MEAs hold thousands of documents. We have COP decisions, we have national reports, scientific assessments, monitoring data sets, all crucial, but as we heard from Elizabeth, also all dispersed. And AI gives us the ability to bring this knowledge together to finally see the full picture. Environment GPT that we heard about from Elizabeth and is actually available at UNON Lobby if you want to go ahead and try it for yourself, actually provides a first step for this, and we've taken the liberty of taking some of your documents, if that's okay, and feeding them into Environment GPT. So you might want to have a quick look and see if it can answer questions properly, and if not, let us know. And of course, this momentum builds on the publication of the Global Environmental Data Strategy that Elizabeth also mentioned, which was developed with a lot of help from our MEA colleagues. And through this development, we heard a strong, consistent message from MEA secretariats, the vision of a more connected, interoperable environmental data ecosystem. And this is exactly also where AI can help. AI can act as a connective layer across these systems, improving interoperability without replacing what already works. It can translate between data sets, surface linkages, harmonize indicators, and reveal opportunities for coordinated action that were previously invisible. Imagine an AI agent trained on the Minamata Convention 2 decades of emissions data, health studies, national reporting, and you ask which mercury reduction measures have delivered the strongest results and what will global exposure look like by 2035 if we scale them. And in seconds, you have the answer with evidence, trajectories, and policy options. Or imagine linking CITES, land degradation trends, and climate projections to detect emerging wildlife trafficking risks before they even occur. Or a shared AI layer across MEAs that identifies duplication, connects obligations, and pinpoints where collaboration would multiply impact. This is not science fiction. Many of these tools exist in early form today. And in fact, if you look at this lovely picture, this is AI generated. A few months ago, or maybe a year ago, you would get nowhere near this quality of image that was just generated with a one-line prompt. Now it looks almost real. So AI is moving at breakneck speed. And to use it well, we need a shared direction, as this ship shows us. Think of our collective MEA system as a research vessel navigating a rapidly changing ocean. Our mandates set the course. Our parties hold the compass. GEDS is the map that shows where we should align. And AI? AI is the new clean engine that can power us forward faster, farther, and with far greater precision, as long as we ensure that its engine itself is sustainable, as we also heard from Elizabeth. But an engine does not choose the destination. We do. So I invite you to be bold. Imagine AI not as a technical add-on, but as a force multiplier for multilateralism, strengthening transparency, protecting sovereignty, bridging capacity gaps, and accelerating implementation across every agreement represented here. If we work together, AI can help MEAs act on the speed and scale that the triple planetary crises demand. And I know from my colleagues that MEA secretariats already have very interesting AI applications, which is why we thought together of this event. And I can't wait for them to share them with us. So we'll start with a 5-minute presentation from each of my colleagues here, just walking us through what they've done, what they think AI can help with, and then we'll have an open Q&A just to explore further opportunities. So let me start by introducing my dear colleagues. It's not exactly the, the order in which they're sitting, but I'm very happy to welcome Rolf Payet, Executive Secretary of the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions, Monika Stankiewicz, Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention on Mercury, Meg Secchi, Executive Secretary of the Ozone Secretariat, Tina Brimpili, Chief Officer of the Multilateral Fund Secretariat, Haruko Ukusu, Chief of the Governing Bodies Unit at the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, and Chris Corbin, coordinator of the UNEP Cartagena Convention Secretariat. And to join us later, because she has a conflict, is Astrid Truemaker, Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity. And with that, let me hand over to Rolf to give us his views on BRS.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have a presentation, I think. Yes, if it's easy. You have a pointer? There's no pointer? Ah, the podium you were saying. No, I'm okay here, but I'm waiting for the presentation. Well, since the presentation is not coming, I'll tell you a story. Now, I did an exercise with GoPilot because we have it, Copilot, we have it as part of our package. And I asked GoPilot, I said, I'm a UNEP officer, and I want you to give me a coordination framework for a project for dealing with the methane emissions. So ChatGPT and told me, yes, you can. You have the coordination with climate change, coordination with UNEP. Give me all the things, and of course I was looking for something specific with Montreal Protocol and so on. And then I said, those methane come from waste. Is it part of waste emission? Oh yes, very true. And I said, who are the international organizations involved in waste management? Blah, 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 blah. And then I said, What are the international treaties involving waste management? Blah, 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 and still forgot about Basel. And then I said, but there's an international treaty on transboundary removal. Oh, yes, you are right. This is my initial experience with GoPilot. So, but it just shows you the power of that tool. In a few years, it will be helping us to fill in those gaps that sometimes with our mind, I'm dealing with a problem of leopards, or I'm trying to solve an issue in critical minerals, or just think any topic, and saying what are the global institutions or stakeholders involved in that scope, and how do their responsibilities overlap. And of course it depends on how much information has been fed into the large language model, obviously, but you can see the potential of how it will help us to coordinate better, to work better together. And we have blind spots, all of us have blind spots, and this is one of the biggest challenges we have in the environmental field, because we're dealing with very, very complex issues. And sometimes it's so difficult for identifying all the different partners or all the different mechanisms and processes to engage with. I will stop here with my story. My slide is online. So what are our perspectives on artificial intelligence? For the Basel and Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions, digital innovation and increasingly AI does and can enhance implementation of the work that we do. In fact, it can improve access to legal measures, scientific assessments, and of course on reporting of data. Also in terms of enhancing transparency and strengthening the science policy interface, which was mentioned by Elizabeth in her opening remarks. And of course, there are some caveats. It needs to respect treaty sovereignty. It cannot interpret treaties for us. That is a remit for the parties and for us in our work. But it can help us. It's a tool that can help us also to see what are the trends in interpretation or understanding of a particular topic, or in environmental law, but also in terms of the substance, because the knowledge is increasing all the time, and our difficulty today in keeping up in touch with the knowledge can be quite complex. So AI can help us to wade through this increasing amount of information that's coming out. So AI enhanced knowledge management, and here just a small graphic which links up with MapTit. MapTit, the BRS Secretariat manages large volumes of documents, as mentioned before, COP documents, decisions. And for us, it's especially interesting because we have 3 COPs, so 3 sets of documents. Then we have joint documents. And we're always exploring relationships, impacts, opportunities between the 3 conventions. And so AI provides, I think will increasingly provide us with the kind of information that we're looking for, especially helping us to connect the dots, which sometimes, like I said, we have humans have serious blind spots when it comes to these things, and I think AI is a powerful tool that can help us to identify those blind spots. Website translation. This has been a big debate in our last conference of the parties, because the parties requested, and rightly so, that our website should all be in the 6 UN languages. We have websites with thousands of pages, documents, different layers, deep, and it's going to cost us millions to actually translate all these documents. So we're working now together with some external partners to develop tools that can help us to translate our website on the go. Of course, with the caveat to check it against the original document. So we always need to be careful that we do put in the caveats, we do put in the considerations that AI is not a perfect tool. AI will not provide us a perfect translation, but it can help in reducing the costs of, and of course, once we reduce the cost of web translation, this money can actually then be used for actual implementation on the ground, because this is where the needs are. And if we use those resources for those kinds of activities, and I said rightly so, then it diverts important resources to actual actions on the ground. So national reports, and this is something we've been working, and many of you, for example, knows about all the hundreds of Jeff projects that have implemented in the lifetime of Jeff. And a lot of data is buried in those reports. We also have national reporting through all the conventions, and here I'm not talking only about BRS conventions, but the other conventions as well. How can we successfully mine those information to get us to better decision making? For example, what is the priority for this country? Has it changed throughout the years, or has it been the same priority raised by that country over 20 years? And the question then we can ask is, why have we not done anything to address this country's priorities? What has happened? So this is just a simple example where AI can help us to mine all this information and give it back to us in a coherent way so that we can start understanding a bit better on how effective we have been in implementation, but also the data we've gathered during implementation of these projects. For example, we've had a lot of PCB elimination projects. But I need, if I don't have AI as a tool, I'll have to get somebody full-time to go and read through all these reports and find out exactly for each project how much PCB has been eliminated. And that's a huge work, and that costs a lot of money. So using AI modeling, this work could easily be done by a large language model. Just to give you some examples. And finally, of course, our vision is we are working very closely with UNEP. We are very much in consultation with them. And of course, we don't want to reinvent the wheel or duplicate platforms. Already, as mentioned by Elizabeth, it's already having a big toll on the environment in terms of its carbon footprint, in terms of its e-waste footprint. And this is an opportunity for us to see how we can leverage those resources in a cooperative manner so that we don't duplicate efforts and we make use of the resources in the most efficient manner, knowing full well that the more we all work in silos or in different corners, then the more pressure and the more demand we have on the models and the more consumption, as you know, of energy and of course impacts on e-waste. So working together with UNEP with that program is, I think, very, very important, and I'm very happy that we started working with you as we started to develop the vision and the strategy, and we want to continue in that manner. And of course, with my sister MEAs, we have, for example, in MEA, where we have this treasure trove of international environmental law decision making for so many years. And it allows us to start looking at trends or gaps or areas where we can improve or make things better. Just one thing before I finish is you can also have, for those of you not familiar with large language models, you can also have private ones, which means that we can have a secure environment where we only deal with the data that we have, which are without exposing it to the public. And that is important for parties as well, because parties contribute data and we are supposed to protect those data, we're supposed to use it properly. So rest assured that while ChatGPT and Copilot are public models, many companies, well, most companies now have private models, and we can have in the environment space as well private models. Over to you, Golestan. Thank you.
Thank you all. And I think we have a budding AI expert here. I feel the competition. Next, let me quickly go to Brenda. Tell us about Minamata and AI.
Thank you very much. Is it working? Thank you very much, Sally, and for inviting us today. And we have a fairly common story with the BRS Secretariat as our sister convention. But what I want to do is just highlight today our practical journey on the AI journey of how we are progressing. So our AI and environmental data journeys started with our digital strategy, which was welcomed at COP5 in 2023. And this is our starting point, really, for exploring AI in a safe and inclusive way. It's organized into 3 pillars, which are digital ecosystems, building partnerships and digital literacy, and governance and innovation. So at COP6, only a few weeks ago, parties encouraged us to further cooperate with the Global Mercury Partnership, with Informia, with the BRS conventions, and with the other MEAs on knowledge management, and also requested the Secretariat to progressively advance on our digital strategy with a specific mention of artificial intelligence. So now we are faced with operationalizing that, and we need to learn from each other in this regard. So we were excited to have this opportunity today. So far, we just have very positive experiences with the use of dashboards for synthesizing data. And this slide just shows some of our dashboards on national reporting, on our specific international program, and on GEF projects. And I'm not going to do a live walkthrough today of our dashboards by any means, but we just want to explain that we want to take this experience we have and move it into national reporting as a way to make our data that we have more accessible, comparable, and actionable. So in terms of national reporting, the Minamata Convention actually has exceptional national reporting rates so far. So we've had over a 95% response rate on our reporting for the first full national reports, and over 85% for our 2 short national reports. So this provides a really large and rather comprehensive data set for us to work with for meaningful outputs in terms of the use of AI. And we have our next reporting cycle due at the end of this year. So what we intend to do is to use AI to support our analytical efforts and draw out further insights from this cycle. So in terms of national reports, they contain extensive information, of course, and they provide useful insights on implementation. But at the same time, they're super time consuming for us to analyze and compare in a comparable way. So we will be piloting AI-assisted analytics dashboards to synthesize the data we get in our national reports, to make the data accessible, comparable, and actionable, and build on the basis we already have with this existing dashboard process we've used. We also plan to adapt and create an LLM model, or a retrieval-based system, to detect implementation trends, common gaps, and also maybe even indicate early signs of compliance risks, which would be very helpful for us. This will also help inform our first effectiveness evaluation that will be due in 2027, and it will also help inform capacity building efforts and supporting countries in moving forward. But of course, as part of this, we also need to apply safeguards to ensure responsible use of AI. So in order to safeguard this exploration, we are fully aligned with the UN AI guidance, UN 2.0, and we are also, of course, guided by our digital strategy that is agreed to by our parties. So this gives us a really clear ethical and accountability backbone to work within on AI. We use a structured bound RAG system, which is a retrieval augmented generation system, which means we only use public official convention documents and party reports. Outputs are fully traceable, non-public, and always human reviewed. And there's no automated decision making or replacement of expert judgment in our process. So this remains fully traceable and reduces the environmental footprint compared to training new models, of course. And since it is source-bound data, we do avoid data and hallucination issues, of course, that are minimized. Beyond that, we apply a broader safe use framework consistent with UN system principles for content control, accountability, and continuous monitoring systems. So finally, we just also want to really emphasize that we feel we must really work together on AI to advance together. So for Minamata, we see this pilot that will provide a better focused information to inform capacity building efforts, as I mentioned, and provide more consistent analysis across our reporting cycles. But we are all really faced with this, and AI is really a challenge for all of us today. So since we are at a similar starting point, we see it as vital to advance together, to learn from each other's outcomes and our experiences so that we can maximize our impact. UNEP's Environment GPT is also emerging as a tool, and we think that really can help support MEAs. And finally, I just also mention Informia as a key established platform that's already supporting us and guiding MEAs in our collaboration and moving forward. So we see that as a real opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Brenda. And of course, yes, we see the same opportunity for collaboration. And Environment GPT now has all of 6 documents from Informia, but we're hoping to work together to increase that number. Okay, colleagues, we have 4 speakers left and 35 minutes. And I also want to ask you some questions and open to the public, to the audience. So if I can ask you to try and stick to the 5 minutes, please, that would be amazing. So without further ado, let me move on to Meg, please.
Thank you, Sally. I'll try to be quick, but let's see. Try to stick to 5 minutes, and good afternoon, everybody. So artificial intelligence presents a great opportunity to accelerate progress towards sustainable development goals. And as said by Elizabeth and other speakers before me, the use of AI can transform how we work. We can be more effective and efficient in our work by using AI in a responsible manner. So I would like to focus on introducing 4 initiatives or 4 activities of the Ozone Secretariat that is using AI. Firstly, we are using AI for accessing and analyzing the various reports and decisions under the Vienna Convention and the Montreal Protocol to support the parties' implementation of the treaties. So 2 years ago, we developed an AI model capable of understanding the reports of the meetings of the ORM, that's the Ozone Research Managers. That's a body under the Vienna Convention that is focusing on monitoring, systematic observation, research issues. And so the model was established to understand these reports, and then to analyze their content to accurately respond to user queries. So we are now expanding this model to an AI chatbot we are calling Ozone GPT, similar in concept to ChatGPT. Ozone GPT will eventually cover all the other reports and documents that we have, such as the reports of the MOPs of the Montreal Protocol and the COPs of the Vienna Convention and all the meeting documents, as well as the decisions of the parties. Users can ask quite complex questions and search our entire archive to get analytical answers. Users can also define the AI's knowledge scope, for example, selecting specific documents or technical areas or time periods for deeper analysis, making it not just a chatbot, but a good analytical engine. So in our system, we have fully automated the back-end workflow. Normally, that requires an AI engineer to do. So it's tasks like chunking, embeddings, and vectorization. And I really don't have much idea about what these things mean. But our IT officer has done all of that. So non-technical person can actually use this back-end system using an admin panel and easily upload and edit documents, and the system will handle everything automatically. Now, secondly, for the decisions taken by the parties over the last 40 years, totaling more than 6,000 in the 6 UN languages, we have developed an AI model to automatically cross-reference among all those decisions, retrieve the correct URLs for them, generate the HTML links, and update the digital version of Decisions Handbook that we have for the Montreal Protocol and for the Vienna Convention. So this eliminated the massive manual effort that we used to spend of hyperlinking and cross-referencing all these decisions. Thirdly, we have the Ozone Meeting Assistant chatbot, which uses daily AI-generated transcripts from our plenary sessions of our meetings to address questions from users. Currently, it's the Ozone Secretariat staff only, like which parties made interventions on the issue of HFCs. That's a simple question, and then the user will receive answers with timestamps on which party said what in the meeting on this issue. And then with the timestamp, the user will be able to go back to verify in the audio or in the transcript. Fourthly, we are also developing a tertiary education platform that uses AI to enable the user, which will be basically students, researchers, and lecturers, to search through numerous recognized and credible resources, such as the reports of the Montreal Protocol's assessment panels, and the articles referenced in those reports to support tertiary studies. Challenges we are facing in this initiative include making sure that our platform can provide value added to what anyone can do outside our system by using generally available AI. So we want to make sure that the answers and analysis provided by the education platform is accurate and based on credible sources only, which will be ring-fenced within our system. Those are the projects that we have been and are currently working on, and all of them, except the tertiary platform, are actually developed entirely in-house by our staff, and that's mainly the IT officer, who is actually an AI expert as well. So lucky us. So looking ahead, we can transform our website into an AI-ready platform with semantically structured data. So LLM's agents can accurately interpret our information. So then our Secretariat's information will be also featured in the wider AI ecosystem. So thank you very much for your attention. And if there are questions, Nailin, who is our IT officer, AI expert, will be able to answer the questions, maybe during this side event or after. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Meg. I have to say, Ozone GPT is probably one of the coolest GPT names I've heard so far, so very nice. Okay, moving swiftly on to Tina, please.
Water?
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you very much, Sally, for organizing this event, and thank you for having the Multilateral Fund for the implementation of the Montreal Protocol. Just very briefly to say that the Multilateral Fund is not entirely a multilateral environmental agreement, it's a dedicated financial mechanism for the Vienna Convention and the Montreal Protocol. So we are dealing with lots of projects, lots of documents, and lots of decisions as well. We are exploring certain things that have to do with AI. Most of them have already been mentioned by my colleagues, but I would like to focus only on two products. One product is already completed, and the other one will be developed shortly. we don't have an alien in-house, so we don't have an AI expert in-house. We are doing a lot of work on our knowledge management system, which has also been very generously funded by our governing body. But I think that the UN is an incredible position to leverage innovation through collaboration with other institutions. And for me, this is one part of the case study and what I wanted to convey today. So we have developed one product, which is called Kigali SIM, and it's developed with the University of Berkeley, California, the Schmidt Center for Data Science and Environment, and the next product, which is a sort of a chatbot again for our decisions, which we call them Kirio, from the ozone molecule. It's being developed by GIZ ProClima and the GIZ Data Lab. So partnerships in this aspect are very, very important. Let me explain you a bit what the Kigali SIM does, which is an AI assistant. The objective is our countries wanted to be able to develop a model that will allow them to project their HFC are chemicals, their consumption of those chemicals, and see the different patterns of this consumption as a result of different policy scenarios. So they wanted to do a simulation of different policy scenarios and how they would achieve compliance with the Montreal Protocol. This is something that it happens before they submit their proposals to us for funding. And this is something that it costs a lot of money that they give to consultants, to agencies to develop, to make these projections. So for us, the need was the development of an easy-to-use, open-source tool that reduces the reliance on expensive modeling tools and that can be offered, since it's an open source, to all countries. The result of this exercise was the Kigali SIM, which was developed to help the developing countries to better analyze and simulate data trends related to emissions, consumption, and use across various policy scenarios. And of course, the tool is built on a custom programming language. So the tool allows integration with popular AI assistants like ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, allows users to interact with very difficult mathematical models using natural language, which makes sophisticated simulations accessible to everyone. And this was another big objective that we had. So the Kigali SIMs makes advanced scenario analysis practical and user-friendly for both the implementing agencies and the countries that we fund under the multilateral fund, and it can be accessible at kigalisim.org. Now, if you can assist me by showing a bit the pilot, colleagues from the technical, thank you so much. Just to give you an idea how the AI works.
Hello, I'm Sam Pottinger,
This
a
is not
senior
the
data
correct
scientist
video.
at the Eric and Wendy Schmidt Center.
So it's a 2-minute video. If you can help me. Let me move on and then I can come back to the video so we don't spend time. And I can do that without a presentation. So this is one part of the product which is readily available. And the other part was the development, again, of a sort of a chatbot. But what we wanted to do, and we are doing that with GIZ, is we have almost 10,000 decisions. These go back to 1991. And what we wanted to be able to do out of these decisions is we wanted to have a sort of, as Meg was mentioning, a ring-fenced chatbot. So we didn't want somebody who would go to our chatbot to be able to find information from another source, which is outside the 10,000 decisions. So this is under development. We have developed a prototype, and we hopefully to launch it soon. However, and this is also a challenge, developing things like that, if you don't have the capacity in-house, and then hosting them and making sure that you have the necessary updates, require some sort of costs. So now I think we can show that, and if we can have voice.
So if we go to the editor tab, we can see that we can also interact with our simulations through code in addition to the UI-based editor that I demonstrated a moment ago. There's also this button that says AI Assistant, which gives you information about how to use your preferred AI assistant with the tool. I'm going to demonstrate using the tool today with Claude, but you could use a different LLM if you would prefer. I'm going to go ahead and pull in the link that it mentions in the dialog box to Claude and say, hello. I am working on a Kigali sim simulation. Please provide the link, and add a recycling policy which has 80% recovered with 80% reused at time of servicing. So we expect a little bit of yield loss through the recycling process, and we're working at the time of servicing to collect that substance. Next, I'm going to go ahead and save my simulation, and then I'll go ahead and add it to my conversation with Claude. And we'll give it a chance to modify our simulation, and we can look at the results together in just a moment. So here you can see that it's pulling in information about how to use the tool effectively, and it's working with the file that we uploaded, making changes. Perfect. So now it's given us the opportunity to download the updated file, so I'll go ahead and do that now. Go back to our Kigali sim simulation. We'll go ahead and open up simulation with recycling. And you can see now that it's not only added this new policy here with the information that we provided, but it's also added an additional simulation scenario. So if we go back to imports, we can see that the curve that we saw earlier in terms of imported consumption drops once we add in the recycling policy.
So just to say that I can talk for hours about this. Actually, we are very proud to have it, and our countries are using it now. But of course, I would like to stop by mentioning something that the Deputy Executive Director said in the beginning. These AI tools need a lot of energy. They require a lot of big data centers. And the Multilateral Fund for the Implementation of the Montreal Protocol actually finances and funds the refrigerant transition and the energy efficiency of those data centers in developing countries. So it's a bit of an ironic loop that we use these kind of systems, and then we also generate projects to ensure that we reduce the load that these data centers need in order to be friendly for the environment. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and looking forward to further cooperation.
Thank you very much, Tina. Very interesting, and I encourage everyone, of course, to explore this very interesting tool. Just because I've been sternly warned by my colleagues that we need to finish on time, let me move swiftly on to Haruko, please.
Thank you very much. Very impressed by the previous speakers and their presentations. I think the message is all very much the same, that for CITES as well, AI is a very promising tool, and it will potentially save a lot of time and resources for a lot of the work that we do, especially for small secretariats like the CITES Secretariat, for which we have just over 20 people. But probably compared to a lot of the other MEAs, we're at a very early nascent stage in using the AI, and that from the lessons learned that we have, we know that it must be used carefully with caution, and perhaps learn lessons on the way. And perhaps I'll focus a little bit more on the lessons part as well. So far, the use within the CITES Secretariat for the help of AI systems has been threefold. First is what everybody probably does, helping with the speaking notes, helping write your speeches or your boss's speeches, and also helping draft press releases, communication products, and so on and so forth. This works especially well if you feed a lot of your previous documents into the system so that it can learn what kind of style or form that your office tends to use. And this takes out a lot of the personality traits in your writing system. Also, a lot of us are trained in writing reports, but perhaps not press releases. And it helps write in a consistent and logical and clear manner. And this has proven very useful for our office as well as probably yours. The second use has been to analyze different studies, reports, collection of data, and also review of historical policy that has evolved over time within the CITES community that parties have actually discussed. And this has had quite mixed results in my point of view. And for CITES, it's very important that the science-based decision-making is done using the previous cases and also to trace what kind of legal decision-making has happened over the course of the years on a given particular decision on species or a particular trade transaction. This works well if we remain with simpler summaries and analyses of different documents, but deeper analysis often had irregular results. And especially this has to do with the fact that there were some factual errors, not able to follow the timelines of the decision making, for which CITES has a very complicated decisions with multiple committees making recommendations, and you don't know where the final decisions are made, and perhaps sometimes the AI tools were not able to follow this over time. And also, obviously, hallucinations and use of external resources, no matter how much we've tried. We've also created a CITES library room where we try to restrict the use of anything except for the documents, official documents that we've uploaded, and still some of the AI tools ended up using external or made up resources, and that we had a lot of challenges. And the last use has been with document translation and processing. We have one document assistant and one half of a document officer who uses computer-assisted translation tool to translate all of our official documents. And on occasion, they do use AI-driven software and machine translation tools to help their work, especially when the crunch time comes or the budget is insufficient to do all of the translation manually. And this proved to be the most challenging, and this has proved to me also the most complicated as a result. There has been a lot of out-of-context translations, or the terminology and the technical terms have not been correctly translated or correctly understood, and especially inability to digest fuzzy or abstract negotiated text. And as you know, some of the texts are made to be abstract so that it would come to an agreement, and sometimes the machines are not able to understand this very well. And perhaps one anecdote from the recent COP was that there was a document related to captive breeding of tigers and how to better monitor and manage the captive bred tigers. And there was a phrase about dead bodies of live tiger specimens. What do these facilities do when they're dead? Do you keep them? Do you also keep a record of them so that you know how many were born, how many were dead? And apparently, when it was in French, it was translated into basically tiger zombies, because they were living dead specimens of tigers. So then you have to actually go back in and try to fix this so that parties don't have this strange translated text as an official document that they have to negotiate. So the major challenge with MEAs is that the MEAs deal with legally binding texts that will have implications if there are any errors in terms of vocabulary use or any misunderstandings or errors in the interpretation, because this will come to the national level and could have legal implications and or could jeopardize some negotiations that have been carefully done. So finding and undoing these errors is also as time consuming as actually using these machine generated texts. Also, the human factor comes into importance, that we need to make sure that the staff who are using this is trained enough so that they know how to use the correct prompts, how to use this, to wield this to their advantage, rather than generate some random document that they have actually not meant to generate. So this is also something that the Secretariat is right now tackling with. So all in all, I think we're also keen to know how other offices and MEAs have experienced in how to remove these risks of hallucinations and wrong uses of the tool that may come to complications, and so that we can learn together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Haruko, and thank you for focusing on the pitfalls and lessons learned so we don't end up with tiger zombies in our official documents. Saving the best for last, Chris, please.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, and it's really a pleasure. And maybe moving now from a global small secretariat to an even smaller regional secretariat with 12 people. I do want to, without repeating everything that colleagues have already said, maybe just zone in immediately on, we represent 28 member states in the wider Caribbean region, most of which are developing countries and small and developing states. Limited resources, particularly on aspects of reporting, on monitoring, on analysis. So I want to present in a very practical way some of how we've used as a secretariat AI, very much in beginning stages as well. So I was really inspired by some of the earlier presentations. And the first one is, as all of my colleagues have said, is how can we improve internal efficiency? How can we do more with less, which is a constant message. So it has helped us in meeting documents, in bureau minutes, in scientific summaries, in corporate reports. All use things that used to take us days and weeks to prepare. At least we get a first draft in a couple of hours, and that allows our staff now to really focus on our role as a secretariat in terms of the diplomacy and engagement with our contracting parties. It has helped with translation, but as you rightly said, sometimes it just gets it wrong. So there is that need. But what we found particularly useful is on the communication side, the way it's been able to tailor something to different audiences. And we would be able to give, this is how we write, tailor it to a young person, tailor it to private sector, and that use of AI has been quite useful. Specifically, and what hasn't been mentioned perhaps as much before, how can we now use it to provide direct support to our parties? How can we help it to meet their reporting obligations, which, as particularly for a number of our countries, it's a significant challenge. So aspects of the automated data extraction, the harmonization, where they're monitoring gaps, and specifically, as my colleagues have mentioned, looking historically at what are the trend analysis, what have been the changes over the years in terms of their response. So something that though needs to happen is that even our focal points at country level don't have the capacity. They pretty much type GPT, help them write a speech. So I think as a secretariat, we also have to see what sort of capacity building is needed for our focal points to be able to engage. And the final aspects I wanted to touch upon is sort of the forward-looking strategic planning, scenario testing type, which again is very, very initial, but we do see an opportunity for the use of AI in helping in that budgeting aspect, preparing up initial project concept. Those are key. We have learned lessons as well. First thing is not plug and play. It certainly needs careful human review and has to be grounded, as has been said, in existing scientific and local expertise. One of the questions we had, for example, is in using different AI, we see there are certain things that keep repeating, which seem to be, yeah, this seems to be what it thinks. How can we avoid reinforcing those stereotypes within an AI environment? I was happy to hear how you protect your national data, because I was concerned about that as well, especially things that are not available for the public. And particularly, how can we use AI to actually help our parties rather than shaping their priorities? So just in closing, we believe that this really is a significant opportunity for us collectively as MEAs. We have a unique role in terms of working directly with parties and responding to them and trying to do it in the most efficient and effective way possible. But it must be transparent, it must be accurate, we have to respect sovereignty, we have to avoid bias, and we have to realize that AI will not substitute for national, regional decision making. Thank you. And AI helped me stick to 5 minutes.
That was perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And I don't see Astrid in the audience yet, so I'll take this opportunity and use the remaining 7 or 8 minutes we have, actually picking up the thread from what Chris was saying about looking into the future, and ask all of you, so whoever wants to come in, please do, where do you see opportunities for collaboration, for synergies, for interoperability even between your different secretariats? And if we wanted to think of a project that we could all do together, what would that be? Whoever wants to start.
We would like a chatbot. And from our perspective, certainly we see how the global MEAs have approached something like reporting and something like decision analysis and looking at the cross-cutting issues. And I think as a regional seas convention, a lot of our work also relates directly to the global MEAs, whether it's on pollution, on chemicals, on biodiversity. So we would like to see how, in fact, what we do at a regional level and a regional seas level can actually complement some of what's happening at the global level. So that would be if we could certainly learn from a lot of the excellent work that has already been done.
Meg, go ahead.
Thank you. Some speakers have mentioned that InfoMEA is actually bringing the different decisions under different MEAs together. And I think I have been told that it is also using AI to analyze and to cross-link and all that kind of thing. And I think each MEA is also working on the same thing. So is it kind of possible to do something to coordinate that? And then, I'm not sure, I don't know, but this would be an area where, we could perhaps do something.
One of the things that CITES has is that CITES has been in operation for 50 years now. So we do have a collection of especially trade data that are submitted by parties on each year's trade transaction of wild specimens that are CITES listed. And we know that this is really a gold mine of data. Of course, it is used for CITES parties in monitoring trade trends and also making decisions based on that, or policy analyses that needs to be taken a look at. But for other uses, there may be other opportunities for uses if it's combined with other data. Also, another example is that we have a program called the Monitoring of the Illegal Killing of Elephants, MIKE, where rangers go to different designated sites and take mortality data on elephants. How many? What are the sex of the elephants that are dead? What are the assumed causes of death? And we have a lot of information about this. These are also geolocated. But again, these are used for informing enforcement decisions within CITES. But if we combine with other data that is out there, can we actually make more assessments and predictions about biodiversity pressures or economic sort of decision making, or looking for sustainable funding opportunities? And these are things that MEA alone, a single MEA, cannot be done by itself, but we need to look for other partners who can actually look for use cases and see what kind of data is out there that can be combined that would actually enrich this gold mine of data into something that's meaningful.
Very much. Great ideas, and we'll follow up on all of them. And right on time, I saw Astrid walking in, but I don't know where she is. Oh, okay. There you are. Astrid was at another engagement, but she really wanted to join us for these past couple of minutes, so I'm really happy that you managed to make it. And we're giving you closing remarks. So please join us on the podium, Astrid Shoemaker, Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity.
Richard on? Yeah, the apologies I really would like to convey loud and clear. Would have loved to be here earlier. In fact, I have a speech in front of me saying it was a pleasure to join this stimulating reflection. It would have been, it would have been a pleasure to join this reflection. I'm really sorry, we didn't plan this very well, so I was somewhere else. But we are very keen, I think, in the Convention on Biological Diversity to engage in a discussion on AI. So, slightly out of breath. So we wanted to see if we could share just a few thoughts from our perspective on what is happening around us in the biodiversity and AI shape. And you have obviously discussed up to now that AI is rapidly reshaping economies, but also societies and the way societies produce knowledge. So we found it incredibly fitting that UNEA 7 picked up this subject and says this is really something we need to discuss. And we need to discuss from all angles, both from the opportunities, but of course also from the challenges related to the use of AI and how it can be harnessed to advance the goals of global multilateral environment agreements. As we see it for MEAs, generally speaking, AI of course brings the potential of strengthened abilities to analyze vast and complex bundles of environmental information and data. And beyond the analytical capacity, and I'm sure my two colleagues, Mac and Haruko, have spoken to that from the MEA perspective, the ability to project. Because a lot of what we do in the environment field need to do is plan and look forward. And there AI, with its capacity to analyze this vast amount of data very fast, really, really comes in and exceeds, of course, or boosts at least human abilities to process these copious amounts of satellite imagery that are floating around and that coming to all of us. Satellite imagery to detect methane leaks, to assess land degradation or deforestation, amongst many other applications. So I'm sitting in an MEA secretariat, we're all of us quite small secretariat, we are a little bit flooded with information. I think looking out to others to help us see how we can manage that information and what role AI can play. And in theory, of course, it can efficiently analyze party submissions, it can strengthen science policy interfaces, but at least from where we're sitting in the CBD, we're still having many questions, how does that work in practice? And I'm having many questions to our own secretariat, where's our capacity to make it better work in practice? And where's the consistency between MEAs? Because all of us, we are struggling with the same question, and we all, like so often in beautiful silos, trying to develop the right way of dealing with it. So part of that discussion is also linked to the broader synergy discussion, that if we want to come to grips with AI and we want to use it to its best possible capacity, it is also about bringing together our analytical models and how we want to integrate AI in our decision-making. And the lack of consistency that we currently experience between MEAs can be a hurdle, probably even for the mightiest artificial mind, because even the programming and the questions we ask to AI are then too diverse and too dispersed to give us the answers that we need. But I also want to say again that we also have many lingering and important questions regarding the ecological footprint of artificial intelligence that need to be addressed. And we are sort of seeing that there is, in this rapid innovation momentum and in the excitement that there rightly is, that there is perhaps sometimes a bit too little concern for anything but making it faster and more powerful. And then looking at UNEA and at all of you, who you are and who you represent, I think you are the people that can bring the universal rules and guardrails that we need in order for AI to live up to its potential in the good way and not to be yet another element that accelerates our triple planetary crisis. As we see it, the AI applications, the environmental space cannot be approached in isolation of the UN-led endeavor to make AI safe and compliant with human rights and equity. So there's another person I should have mentioned. I'm sure you also had a similar perspective on that. But if AI is supposed to really serve multilateralism, its applications must be deployed in ways that respect national sovereignty, protect data integrity and privacy, and ensure, of course, that no country is left behind. And that is perhaps one of the biggest concerns I would have at the moment as I see AI stride forward rapidly in some parts of the world, but not in others. And sitting where we are here, building our own digital transformation efforts as part of the clearinghouse mechanism in the CBD and beyond, we have two propositions, and I want to close with that. The first is really that we all team up to develop a shared understanding of AI applications to the work of MEAs, that we form a common understanding of the scope, limits, and conditions under which AI can support MEA processes in the spirit of synergy and efficacy and efficiency, drawing on the global environmental data strategy, because we should also celebrate and leverage what we have or what we are discussing, and by also leveraging existing platforms such as InfoMEA and working with you, the UNEP Chief Digital Officer, and as such then joining forces to develop these common standards and norms to prevent inconsistencies, duplication of effort, and fragmentation. And the second proposition, and I have a sort of sneaking feeling I'm also just repeating what probably all of you have said and I couldn't hear, is that really it is crucial to keep people at the center of AI developments in the environmental space. That is, of course, fully in line with the UN Secretary General's data strategy. We believe our collective approach must help overcome barriers to participation in AI-powered decision-making, planning, and implementation, including for women and youth. And again, we see there a new barrier emerging with women and youth participating less than others in this revolution and needing specific support to be able to benefit and to be able to put in place the right guardrails that I mentioned before. And that means also, and that is another group that risks being excluded as we're moving forward, working with indigenous peoples and local communities to ensure their full participation in AI-powered processes under the MEAs. And there's a need for us to understand its implications for traditional knowledge, and for us to understand that AI applications must also respect the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. But the sweet spot that we sometimes find in environment and often in nature policy is where the traditional knowledge that has been developed over centuries is just validated by AI applications, and things that might have been ignored because people would say, yeah, this is just, people talking. AI comes in with its technical prowess, and we have such a strong message and a stronger scientific underpinning for our policies. So as many parties, in particular developing countries and small island and developing states, continue to face challenges in this area, I think, and I really want to close with that, unless the AI face challenges from reporting obligations, face challenges to live up to all the things they have subscribed to. We need capacity building, we need peer learning, and we need to make sure that AI can help us in all of that. And if anything, biodiversity and the global biodiversity framework, in particular with its broad scope, shows that cooperation within and among entities is the best way forward. And we believe, and I want to say that despite all my talk about guardrails and caution, we believe that cooperation among MEAs can be boosted by AI in ways that mimic this natural symbiosis and that generate a whole that is bigger and stronger than the parts. And we're moving to the first global review of our Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We're looking at collective progress towards 2030. And key of this discussion next year in Yerevan at COP17 will be how can we be faster, because the first years were not fast enough. And there, an area for immediate attention is how can we develop our collective ability to benefit from biodiversity-related knowledge that is distilled from the information and data and ecosystem from MEAs and relevant partners. And we will need AI to help us in that, because there's a lot of fragmented data around there, and we need help to make sense of it all for the benefit of biodiversity, nature, and ultimately all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Astrid. I think that was the perfect wrap-up for this event. Let me just thank our speakers once more for the fantastic presentations and insights, and thank all of you, and to be continued, I think. Thank you very much.